Our next speaker had an ambition, actually, to become a lawyer when he was young. A career choice he quickly changed to the tea industry, and he became one of the first 6 students in the industry to be selected as a tea taster. He was originally trained at Mincing Lane, then the World Tea Center, but what he saw there was actually his turning point. He figured out that ethics and integrity and quality were continually compromised. It was then that he began pursuing his dream of having a brand of his own of pure Ceylon tea. This then is the legacy he built, something that began germinating in 1962 and later mooted to make sure that he made a brand that was synonymous with quality, integrity, and ethics. Please welcome the founder of Dilmah Tea, Merrill J.Fernando.
Honorable Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and dear friends. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak on this occasion. I have been in the tea industry for almost half of the 150 years, 66 years to be exact. Then again, I would like to thank the organizing committee for a brilliant job they have done to celebrate this important event in the history of Ceylon tea. If James Taylor was around, he would have been the proudest man today. But from wherever he is, I'm sure he tells you, well done. From my early years in the tea industry, I spent a lot of time understanding the plantation industry, tea planting, the roots of tea, the roots of the industry. And I was very impressed with the commitment, dedication, and the diligence of the estate workers in that era. I was particularly impressed by the hard work done by the tea pickers who did their work picking tea from morning till evening, looked after their families, looked after their children, took them to school, and did all their functions most dedicatedly. I am very happy that the Honorable Minister paid a tribute to those workers who came out from India. They started the industry, and I always say they are the roots of the industry, of the tea industry. As I moved out of planting experience and knowledge into trade, I was fortunate enough to be among the first batches of locals recruited to the tea trade. There I learned how tea is blended for export and how Ceylon tea as a finished product, which requires only boiling water to make it drinkable, was treated as raw material in exporting to countries abroad. That was the colonial trading culture, which required their colonies to produce raw material, and the raw material was taken away to developed countries, in the case of tea, initially to London, and thereafter to the big centers in tea drinking countries. There, I was not aware what was being done to our tea, but I knew that we should not be doing that in my early years. As I got into the trade and started exporting bulk tea in bulk, as I said, I started visiting my customers overseas. I spent time with them, understood what they did. I was fascinated with the kind of trade that existed in Australia and New Zealand. There were several family companies doing tea in a small way. The parents with their children would wrap tea, Ceylon tea, always Ceylon tea, would wrap tea and give it to the grocer. And in the UK, there were about 300 family companies in tea, and progressively, they could not withstand the strong, powerful activities of the bigger trading companies, and they succumbed or sold out. In my travels, when I saw the kind of value addition, branding and marketing, and what their earnings were, I thought to myself, my goodness, in our country, the poor workers and producers of tea watch in pain and in need their efforts, their sweat, toil and tears create millionaires and billionaires from the humble Ceylon tea. When I noticed that, I thought, why can't we do this? And I vowed that one fine day I will have my own brand of tea, which will spell integrity, quality, and share my profits with the poor and the community. That, of course, was the wild dream of a young man. But that thought kept haunting me. And somebody prompted me and urged me to pursue that. I had neither the experience nor the money required to pursue that dream. However, 34 years later, I decided to launch my own brand. At that time, in the 1970s, there were no 5-color printing machines in the country. There were no graphic artists. There was no one who would guide me and advise me the design. So I did all that myself. And the packs looked hideous, but I couldn't help it. And I introduced, at that stage, value addition to Ceylon tea right here, right where it is grown. I invested in 2 tea bagging machines, and I was ready to take the first ever, and until today, the ethically produced tea in the world. When I was ready to launch that in Australia, I had a small press conference. I told them, tea at that time, that is 32 years ago, had become a commodity. There is no, the packs do not say what is inside their packs, and just tea. I said, I'm going to bring integrity back to tea by providing single origin tea. I will provide the finest tea on earth in 100% pure Ceylon tea. And I will share my success with the poor, the disabled, and the needy, and with the wider community. 25 years later, I stood at the Sydney Opera House and thanked 250 guests who were mainly retail buyers, distributors, and consumers, and to say, you have fulfilled the promises I held out. You have enabled me to say, I have honored what I said. Consumers in Australia fell behind the brand. because the brand's name and the face behind it meant a lot to them. In the big world of tea, I couldn't pay a company and experts to produce a brand name. Therefore, I named the brand Dilmah after my two sons, Dilhan and Malik. I could not afford a great celebrity to market and promote my brand. Therefore, I put my own face in that. Eventually, those were the two greatest investments I made for the brand. Consumers said, you have named the brand after your children. That is your third child. And they themselves said, I have several letters you are now saying, Dilmah, you are not a faceless multinational. You have a face to your brand. So we know who is behind the brand. That means a lot to us. There was, in the early stages, when I started seeing profits and seeing money, coming from very humble beginnings, when one meets with success and sees money, one is lost. In my case, I had to decide whether I'm going to bank that money and become a rich man or spread it with the poor and the needy. The needy I picked to be my staff. And I gave their children all their school clothing, uniforms, shoes, textbooks, and scholarships. I had only 18 workers then. I realized that I made the right decision by sharing with the poor. And because my profits increased, as my profits increased, I covered more and more and more. Eventually, I created the MJF Charitable Foundation in 2002. My charity with the 18 people started in 1962. And today, I have a few thousand employees. They receive all that and much, much more. How did I do that? How am I able to do that? I stopped being a supply of raw material. I started marketing my own brand of pure Ceylon tea. In the Australian market, I met so much opposition from the big brands. When I launched my tea at $1.89 for a pack, the big market leader brought his price down on promotion to $1.49. I knew my dream is shattered. I went to see the buyer and said, what can I do now? You're going to delete me? He said, no. I want to tell you this. Never have we had so many letters and phone calls from customers praising a product and saying, Coles, thank you for bringing Ceylon tea back. That is the power of Ceylon tea with the consumers. And that is what made Dilmah globally respected for its quality. In Dilmah, the brand showed the world, poor countries, developing countries, and even the rich world, that their sources of raw material should never enrich people or traders outside their countries. They should add value, start marketing it, and they will eliminate poverty in their own countries. However, my wisdom tells me to think differently. Ceylon tea has the finest, most esteemed customer perception in the world. That is why, if you see 100 packs of tea around the world, 80 of them will not be pure Ceylon tea. Some may not have Ceylon tea at all. But the power of Ceylon tea is being exploited. I have always said, as the minister ended up his speech, the tea industry is one, not growers, brokers, or exporters. We have to think as one industry and further the interests of the industry and retain in our country the wealth that is acquiring to countries around the world. If they follow that example, there will be no poverty in the world. What occurs to me today is that I don't know what drove me or prompted me to go on my mission, which seemed impossible at the start. Today, as I stand here, I say that if I could have my own brand of tea, a much respected brand globally for its quality, integrity, and freshness, and the only ethically produced tea, why can't 100 others in my own country follow the example of Dilmah and share that success with the poor and the needy? I realized that business is no achievement if greed prompts you to keep it all. Success in business should extend to the poor, the needy, the underprivileged, towards making this a better world. If you are able to think back on your business career of 30, 40, 50, whatever years and say, look, I have done my bit in making this a better world and eliminating and contributed towards eliminating poverty and pain among the people. When I decided to launch my brand, I didn't have a single friend in my country. Everybody turned against me and some said I was nuts. I knew what I was doing to a certain extent. And they didn't envy me, but they thought I was a fool. I cannot do what the others have done with our own tea. I couldn't explain. I had very senior government officials, my friends, they explained to me several times, what are you doing? The people will stop buying tea from us. I gave figures at the time, in 32 years ago, the countries which bought huge quantities of Ceylon tea had dropped to about 50% or less. So the figures, and I said, in 10 to 15 years' time, they will not buy any Ceylon tea at all, or will be token purchases. Today we have reached that situation. There are so many brands around called Ceylon tea, but they are not Ceylon tea. So my answer is that the trade, the industry must get together, work with the big multinational companies, other national companies, and say, let's bring quality back to consumers. And work out a policy that not only we from Sri Lanka, but other big players around the world are also persuaded and motivated to sell among their 100 different packs of tea under their brands to say this is pure Ceylon tea, quality guaranteed by Sri Lanka. This mission cannot be undertaken by us alone. If we join hands, you may think I'm talking nonsense, but as the Prime Minister said, there is, for the industries, not only tea, others to survive, we have to work together. And I want to tell you that voice that prompted me and drove me to where I am today and where Dilmah Tea has become is the power of Ceylon Tea alone. I was merely the messenger carrying the message of quality with a pack of Dilmah Tea. Correctly priced, correctly fresh tea, and ethically produced tea. And the good Lord, Jesus Christ, showed me the way. I just want to give you a final para that I wrote. Ours is an industry without parallel for the diversity of our teas, the richness of our industry, heritage and devotion with which our industry was formed and developed are all unique. In a world where mediocrity has corroded many aspects of our lives, due to relentless cost cutting, we have an opportunity that only Ceylon Tea can harness to offer the finest, purest teas to the world, the purest teas to a growing segment of discerning tea tasters, tea drinkers. The characteristics of Ceylon Tea, social, agricultural, human, climatic, economic, all run contrary to the commodity direction that tea industries in some countries have adopted and which some seek to impose upon Sri Lanka. The only sustainable direction for Ceylon Tea is forward, building on heritage of 150 years, not denying or desecrating. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
The visionary founder of Dilmah Tea, that was Merrill J.Fernando.